It began with silence. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that lingers too long. The kind that makes your chest feel heavy before you even know why. For 5 straight days, no one heard from Travis Alexander. No calls. No texts. No posts. He vanished without a word. And if you knew Travis, you'd know, he wasn't the kind of man to go quiet. He had friends. A career. A trip planned. A life he was excited to live. But on June 9, 2008, when his friends unlocked the front door to his home in Mesa, Arizona, they knew something was very wrong. The house smelled off. Not like food gone bad. Something worse. They called his name, but the air stayed still. The lights were off. The walls felt like they were holding their breath. Then they saw it, blood. Dried into the carpet. Trailing down the hallway. Not splattered. Smeared. They followed it. And at the end of that trail, inside the master bathroom shower, they found Travis. Dead. His body was slumped against the back wall. His skin pale. His eyes wide open. His throat had been cut so deeply it nearly detached his head. There were stab wounds. Too many to count at first glance. And then, a bullet wound above his right eyebrow. He wasn't killed quickly. He was slaughtered. Someone made sure of it. And then, they left him there. In the shower for days. When police arrived, they searched the home for clues. There were no signs of forced entry. Nothing stolen. But inside the washing machine, they found a camera. Soaked. Beaten up. Left to be destroyed. But it wasn't. They pulled the memory card. And what they found changed everything. Photos of Travis. Alive. Smiling. In the shower. Timestamps placed those photos just minutes before the moment he died. Then another photo, of the floor. Blood pooling. The image crooked, like the camera had fallen. A foot. A body. Someone had kept taking pictures, even after he was already dying. Someone stayed. Stood there. Watched. And cleaned. But they missed one thing. That camera. It had names. Dates. And a timeline the killer never expected to survive. Police checked Travis's phone records. They found message after message. Call after call. All pointing to the same person. Jodi Arias. His ex-girlfriend. The one he broke up with months earlier. She was supposed to be gone. She told everyone she was back home in California. She even posted pictures from a road trip. But there were gaps. Moments where she disappeared. Hours where her phone stopped moving. She rented a car. She filled it with gas cans, 3 of them, so she wouldn't have to stop on the way. She turned her license plate upside down. She dyed her hair. She packed a gun. And then she drove, over 1,000 miles, to see the man who no longer wanted her. He let her in. He didn't know it would be the last thing he ever did. Jodi told the police she hadn't seen Travis in months. They asked again. She said maybe someone else had done it. 2 masked strangers. They killed him. She escaped. They asked again. She changed her story. She said it was self-defense. He attacked her. She fought back. She had no choice. But the facts told a different story. She brought the weapon. She cleaned the scene. She put the sheets in the washer. She tried to destroy the camera. She left nothing behind, except the very thing that would betray her. She drove away. Met another man. Laughed. Slept. Ate. Told no one. All while Travis lay dead in his house, his friends calling his name, his body rotting in the Arizona heat. What makes someone do this? What brings a person across the desert just to bleed out someone they claim to love? What kind of person documents the entire thing, picture by picture? She posed him. She ended him. And she looked into the camera like nothing had happened. This is more than a jealous lover story. This is obsession. This is control. This is a mind that didn't care who got hurt, as long as she didn't get left. You are listening to Bruised Voice. And this is just the beginning. If you're new here, subscribe. Turn on notifications. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? Because the next part of this story takes us back. Back to who Travis really was. Before the photos. Before the trip. Before the day she came to kill him. Stay close. What's coming next is even worse. Before the photos. Before the shower. Before the silence. There was a boy. His name was Travis Victor Alexander. Born July 28, 1977, in Riverside, California. He didn't come from comfort. He didn't come from money. He came from pain. Travis was raised in a home where chaos lived in every room. His parents, addicts. Meth. Neglect. Shouting. Hunger. At times, there was no electricity. No food. The refrigerator stood empty. The lights didn't work. The nights felt longer than they should have. The children, 8 of them, were left to raise themselves. At just 10 years old, Travis watched his mother pass out for days at a time. Watched insects crawl through dishes left rotting in the sink. Slept in clothes that hadn't been washed in weeks. When his father died, Travis's world shifted again. He was taken in by his grandparents, strict Mormons, who offered something he hadn't known in years: order. There was a roof. There were rules. There was food on the table. But most of all, there was purpose. Travis converted to the LDS faith. It wasn't just religion to him. It was structure. It was a second chance. He read scripture. He spoke about change. He wanted more than survival. He wanted meaning. At 19, he became a missionary for the church. He knocked on doors. He studied. He preached. He learned how to talk, not just talk, but connect. And that became his gift. By his early 20s, Travis had grown into something most people didn't expect from someone with his background. He was magnetic. Not because of his looks or charm, though he had both. It was his story. A boy from nothing, who refused to stay there. He joined Prepaid Legal Services, a multi-level marketing company, and rose through the ranks like a man on fire. He wasn't just selling. He was teaching. Leading. Coaching others to break free from their own cycles. He stood on stages and told rooms full of strangers about the nights he had no shoes, and how he built something anyway. People believed him, because it was real. He became a motivational speaker. A man in a suit with scars beneath it. But Travis didn't just want success. He wanted something deeper. He wanted love. He talked about having a wife. A big family. A house full of laughter. A partner who shared his faith. He wrote about it in journals. Told his friends. Prayed for it. He dated, but carefully. He wanted a woman who would lift him higher, not pull him back. To the outside world, Travis looked unstoppable. He had a beautiful home. A close group of friends. He hosted Bible study. He volunteered. He traveled the country speaking. But behind all that, he was still carrying a boy who had seen too much too young. He craved stability. Trust. Safety. That made him open-hearted. That also made him vulnerable. Especially to someone who knew how to mirror what he was looking for. In September 2006, Travis met a woman. Her name was Jodi and Arias. He was speaking at a business convention in Las Vegas. She was there, listening. Their first conversation lasted hours. She laughed at his jokes. Quoted scripture. Told him she wanted the same things. He told a friend the next day, "She's amazing." But friends noticed something else. She was intense. Fast-moving. Eager to attach herself to every part of his life. Within weeks, they were dating. Within months, she was considering converting to his faith. Travis wanted to believe she was the one. But cracks started to show. She didn't just want to be with him, she wanted to control who he saw, what he did, where he went. His friends grew distant. He stopped attending events without her. She monitored his social media. Showed up unannounced. He broke up with her. She kept coming back. He changed the locks. She found ways in. Once, he found her asleep on his couch, after driving hours without warning. He told people he felt stuck. Torn between guilt and concern. He still wanted to help her, even if she didn't want help. Even after he tried to move on. Even after he told her it was over. But Jodi didn't walk away. She watched. She followed. She documented. She wrote pages and pages in journals about him. About their future. About the woman he would never love more than her. And when he started dating someone new, everything changed. He never saw it coming. To this day, people who knew him say the same thing. Travis had a good heart. That was his gift. That was also his weakness. Because the same heart that made him fight for a better life made him trust the wrong person. And in June 2008, just days before he was scheduled to leave the country on a work trip, he let her back inside. Some say it was one last attempt to make peace. Some say he didn't know how to say no. What we know for sure is that she came prepared. He welcomed her in. She picked up the camera. He stepped into the shower. He posed for her. He smiled. He trusted her. And minutes later, he was dead. This chapter of his life, the good parts, are often buried beneath the headlines. But Travis Alexander wasn't just a victim. He was a fighter. A dreamer. A man who ran toward life with everything he had. And still, he didn't see what was coming. Not from her. Not that day. Not like that. Long before she held the camera. Before she pointed it toward the man who once called her beautiful. Before the blood, before the stories. There was a girl. Her name was Jodi and Arias. Born July 9, 1980, in Salinas, California. To some, she was quiet. Artistic. Always drawing. Always writing. Always somewhere between focused and distant. But those who grew up around her saw something else. She changed moods quickly. She clung to people who showed her attention, then pushed them away. And if they walked, she followed. In her teenage years, she was known for being intense. Teachers noted that she did well when she wanted to, but often drifted into isolation. Friends came and went. Her journals began filling up, page after page, with thoughts that made sense only to her. By 16, she had dropped out of high school. She picked up jobs in restaurants. Waitressing. Hosting. Smiling. But always watching. She moved in with boyfriends. Then out. Then back again. By 20, the pattern had formed: attach, conflict, break, repeat. In 2001, she started dating a man named Daryl Brewer. He was older. A manager at a resort where she worked. They lived together. Talked about marriage. Even planned to start a business. But something started pulling at her. She grew distant. Unstable. One moment, she was planning a life. The next, she was packing boxes and disappearing. She was always searching for something new. And in September 2006, she found it. Las Vegas. A business convention. She had just signed up with a multi-level marketing company. Prepaid legal services. She wasn't a top performer. But that weekend, none of that mattered. Because that's where she saw him. Travis Alexander. He was on stage. Telling his story. The crowd listened. Jodi watched. She made her way through the crowd and introduced herself after his speech. According to those who were there, she stood out immediately. She was dressed sharply. Hair styled. Nails done. She made direct eye contact. She laughed at his jokes. And when he left the room, she followed. That night, they talked for hours. She told him she had just joined the company. Told him she loved his speech. Told him she'd love to learn from him. By the next morning, she had given him her number. It didn't take long. They started calling each other. Texting. Emailing. Within a few days, they were talking every night. She told him she felt a connection. Something rare. He told his friends she was beautiful. At first, things looked perfect. They took photos together. Went on trips. Shared hotel rooms. But there were things that didn't quite line up. Travis was a devout Mormon. He believed in waiting for marriage. He taught purity. Preached discipline. But with Jodi, things were different. According to his own journal entries, they crossed lines. And she encouraged it. She offered herself quickly. Constantly. But it wasn't just about intimacy. It was about control. Travis tried to slow things down. Set boundaries. She ignored them. When he needed space, she got closer. When he needed time, she showed up uninvited. Once, while on a date with another woman, Travis came home to find Jodi hiding behind his Christmas tree. Another time, a friend reported seeing her peeking into Travis's window at night. His tires were slashed. His passwords were accessed. She started sending long, emotional emails. Some filled with love. Others filled with rage. She said she wanted to be better for him. Said he made her feel complete. Then she accused him of using her. One message could sound like a wedding vow. The next, a warning. He told his friends he wanted out. He told them she scared him. But every time he tried to cut things off, she found a new way back in. She moved closer to him, from California to Mesa, Arizona, without being invited. She changed her religion. She got baptized into the Mormon faith, just weeks after meeting him. She said it was for God. His friends believed it was for Travis. Still, he kept letting her in. He struggled with guilt. With shame. With confusion. She used that. She wrote about it in her journals. Described him as both the best and worst part of her life. She told him no one else would ever love him the way she did. No one would ever understand him the way she could. No one else would ever forgive him the way she had. She studied his weaknesses. She played the role he needed, until he tried to walk again. And when he finally made plans to move on, really move on, she lost control. By May 2008, he had booked a trip to Cancun. Not with her. With another woman. He told her it was over. He wanted something new. And for the first time in years, she was no longer in the picture. But she didn't accept that. She called. He didn't answer. She messaged. He stayed quiet. Then. She started driving. She left California with a rented car, filled with gas cans, her hair dyed darker, a .25 caliber pistol hidden in her luggage. She didn't tell anyone where she was going. She made up stories. Told her friends she was taking a photography trip. She made sure her phone was off for a specific stretch of the journey. The stretch that led to Arizona. To Travis. And in the final week of his life, he opened the door one last time. Whatever she said. Whatever she promised. Whatever lies she used to get inside. It worked. He let her in. She picked up his camera. He stepped into the shower. He smiled. And she waited. From 11:00 p.m. to 4:00 a.m., her phone went quiet. No activity. That 5-hour window aligned with the highway between Nevada and Arizona. When it came back online, she was nearly in Utah. But in between, something happened. The last known message from Travis was sent the evening of June 3rd. He told a friend Jodi might be stopping by. He didn't seem alarmed. He didn't know what she had in her trunk. At 1:42 p.m. on June 4th, a photo was taken. Travis was in the shower. His face calm. A stream of water running down his shoulders. Jodi was behind the lens. Another picture, 1:44 p.m. He looked straight into the camera. He couldn't see what was coming. Then the photos stopped. And the violence began. Sometime between 1:45 and 1:55 p.m., Travis Alexander was attacked. The sequence is still debated. But the evidence speaks clearly. He was stabbed, at least 27 times. Defensive wounds were found on his hands. There were cuts on his palms. One wound nearly split a finger. He fought back. But he didn't make it far. At some point, he was shot in the head with a .25 caliber bullet. Forensic tests suggest the gun was fired after he was already bleeding heavily. Then came the final wound, his throat was cut. Not a small cut. Not an accident. A slash from ear to ear. So deep, it nearly decapitated him. He was dragged back to the shower. Left there. Naked. Slumped in a sitting position. Blood smeared across walls, floor, sink, hallway. The killer didn't flee. They stayed. They cleaned. They stripped the sheets off the bed and ran the washer. They picked up the camera. They tried to destroy it. It was found later, inside the machine, still wet but intact. The memory card recovered. And what it held changed everything. A sequence of images. Travis in the shower. Travis on the floor. A blurry image of what appears to be a leg. Another of blood. Time-stamped. Marked. Then, silence. No calls. No texts. Nothing from Travis again. At around 3 p.m., neighbors reported hearing water running. Then quiet. Later that evening, Jodi appeared at the home of Ryan Burns, the man she claimed she was driving to visit in Utah. She showed up laughing, cheerful, acting like nothing had happened. She told him she'd gotten lost. That she'd taken the scenic route. She didn't mention Arizona. She didn't say she had just left the house where a man lay murdered. She joked. She flirted. She told him she wanted to start fresh. He didn't suspect a thing. She had cleaned up well. Her makeup was neat. Her arms showed no cuts. Her hands, no blood. She kissed him that night. And somewhere back in Mesa, Travis Alexander's friends were calling, texting, wondering why he hadn't shown up. June 5th, no response. June 6th, nothing. By June 7th, Mimi, the woman he was supposed to take to Cancun, was worried. On June 9th, she and several others went to his home. They found him. They called 911. And the case began. Police questioned Jodi on June 13th. She said she hadn't seen him in months. Said she was in California, then Utah. Her alibi sounded clean, until the camera was found. Until they retrieved the photos. Until they noticed the gas cans. The license plate, flipped upside down. The hair dye. The trip. The silence. Every lie was a puzzle piece. And the picture it formed was ugly. She would later admit it. But not all at once. At first, she blamed intruders. Masked strangers. 2 of them. Broke in. Killed Travis. Let her live. She said she ran. That she was afraid. But she never called the police. Never told a soul. Then she changed her story. Said Travis attacked her. Said she killed him in self-defense. Said she didn't remember all the details. But the wounds told another story. The photos. The blood trail. The missing hours. The bleach. The bullet. The throat. Each detail sharper than the last. Each piece cutting deeper. Because this wasn't random. It wasn't chaotic. It was calculated. She crossed state lines. Erased records. Planned everything, down to the minute. Then she smiled. Laughed. Made new plans with someone else. As if nothing had changed. But everything had. Travis Alexander was gone. And now the question wasn't who did it. It was why did she go that far? And more than that. What was she capable of next? She spoke about Travis with warmth. She said she missed him. She said she hadn't seen him in weeks. She was sure of that, she was in California the whole time. She said she was on a road trip. She even had the photos to prove it. They asked her if she knew Travis had been killed. She said she didn't. Not until that day. She cried, a single tear. Not much more. But the detectives had the camera. They had the timestamps. They had the proof. They knew she was lying. Still, she held her ground. Then they told her, they found photos of her at the scene. They said, we have pictures. You're there. And for the first time, her story shifted. She took a deep breath. Then said something no one expected. 2 intruders. That's what she claimed next. She said they were wearing ski masks. They broke into Travis's house while they were together. A man and a woman. They attacked him. She said she watched him die. She said they threatened her life, then let her go. She said she never told anyone, out of fear. The detective stared at her in silence. None of it made sense. There were no signs of forced entry. No neighbors reported anything unusual. There were no stolen items. And she didn't call police. Didn't run to a hospital. Didn't say a word, not to friends, not to family. Just silence. And smiles. And now, another story. Detectives gave her space. Let her sit in the room. She sang quietly to herself. Did handstands against the wall. Talked to herself in the mirror. Then, hours later, the story changed again. This time, it was self-defense. She said Travis got angry. She said he snapped. She said she had no choice. She said she didn't remember the details. She said it was a blur. She stabbed him. Then ran. But the evidence told a different story. There were defensive wounds, but not on her. There were gas cans. There was the license plate turned upside down. There was the camera, the bleached clothing, the cleaned hallway. There was no sign of a struggle initiated by him. Only signs that he tried to protect himself, and failed. 3 stories. 1 truth. And a growing mountain of evidence. Her trip to Utah. The fake alibi. The cell phone records. The fingerprints. The bullet matching the caliber of her grandfather's stolen gun. The receipts from Walmart. The hair dye. The messages leading up to the murder, filled with rage, control, and desperation. Detectives looked at her. And still, she denied. They asked, why would you do this? She paused. Then said, I wouldn't. But Travis Alexander was gone. The camera was found. And Jodi Arias was the only one still writing the script. For now. June 15, 2008. Mesa, Arizona. The room was square. The walls, blank. Fluorescent lights above. A single table. 2 chairs. And a camera in the corner, silently recording. Jodi Arias sat down. No cuffs. No panic. No urgency. She crossed her legs. Straightened her top. Brushed her hair behind her ears. To anyone watching from the outside, this wasn't a woman under suspicion of murder. This was someone preparing for a conversation. She looked around the room, not once, but many times. Then she waited. And waited. She leaned back. Whispered to herself. Hummed softly. Then, she started to sing. A song by Dido. I didn't hear you leave, asterisk. She sang each word carefully, like the melody belonged to her. As though she had nowhere else to be. It wasn't a performance. It was comfort. Moments later, she did a handstand against the wall. Then she sat back down, smiling. The camera kept rolling. Still, she waited. Still, no one entered. So she stared at her reflection in the mirror on the wall. Adjusted her hair. Checked her teeth. Smoothed her skin. It wasn't nervousness. It was maintenance. As if the next person who entered the room would be someone she wanted to impress. And then, the door opened. Detective Esteban Flores stepped in. His demeanor, calm. Friendly. He wasn't there to confront. Not yet. He asked about her trip to Utah. Her visits. Her timeline. She spoke without pause. She laughed when he brought up Travis. She said she still cared about him. Said they had drifted apart, but remained close. She said she wanted him to be happy. And then he asked the question. Did you kill Travis Alexander? She laughed. It wasn't forced. It wasn't delayed. Just, laughter. She said, no. Of course not. He asked again. Same tone. Same result. She said she hadn't been in Mesa. That she was hundreds of miles away. She even offered to give DNA. Hair. Prints. Anything. She had nothing to hide. But Detective Flores had something. He had the camera. He had the photos. He knew she had been there. He knew the timeline. He just wanted to hear it from her. So he waited. She asked if she could see the photos. He showed them. The smile faded. Her eyes locked on the screen. Travis in the shower. The timestamp in the corner. Then another photo. Blurred. Red. She stared for several seconds. Her breathing changed. Not frantic. Not calm. Just, different. Detective Flores leaned forward. He said, this tells a different story. She said nothing. He reminded her, these were taken with your camera. Still nothing. He asked again, why were you there? She paused. Then finally, she spoke. She said she had been there, but just for a visit. She said they had reconnected. Had a good time. Taken some photos. Then, two strangers broke in. A man and a woman. Both wearing ski masks. She said they rushed in while Travis was in the shower. They attacked. They shouted. They threatened her. Then they let her go. She said she ran. Didn't look back. She said she didn't call the police. Didn't tell anyone. Didn't stop. Because she was afraid. Detective Flores let her speak. He didn't interrupt. Then he leaned in again. Why would they let you live, he asked. She didn't answer. He asked about the gas cans. She said she liked being prepared. He asked about the phone being off. She said it died. He asked why she smiled in all her photos, hours after the killing. She said people grieve in different ways. He asked again, and again. And with each question, her version shifted. Not all at once. Little pieces moved. She added details. Removed others. Restructured time. But one thing remained unchanged, it was never her fault. And then, after hours, she asked for a pen. She wanted to write a letter to Travis's family. She said she wanted them to know she didn't do this. She didn't cry while writing it. She took her time. Folded it neatly. Handed it over. Then she asked, can I clean myself up? They gave her tissues. She wiped her face. Then looked directly at the camera. Like she knew someone would be watching later. And whispered something. No jury will convict me, because I'm innocent. That line would echo across every news station in the country. She said it with complete certainty. But detectives were already moving. The evidence was stacking faster than her story could keep up. The camera. The blood. The bullet. The gas receipts. The phone logs. The fingerprints. The bleach. The photos. The memory card that was never supposed to be found. They gave her a chance to come clean. She gave them theater. And when they told her they were done for the day, she smiled again. Not because she was confident. But because she believed she still had control. As they walked her out of the room, the camera stayed on. The chair empty now. The room still. But what she left behind was louder than anything she said. 3 stories. No apology. And a man who never had a chance to tell his version. January 2nd, 2013. Phoenix, Arizona. The courtroom was packed. Spectators lined the pews. Reporters jostled for camera space. Photographers were camped outside before sunrise. Everyone wanted to see her. Jodi Arias. Accused of first-degree murder. The charges were brutal. The evidence, graphic. The headlines had been building for nearly 5 years. But now, it was time for 12 strangers to decide what happened in that house on June 4th. Courtroom 5C became a theater. Every seat, a ticket. Every breath, monitored. Every word, recorded. From the moment the trial opened, it was clear, this would not be ordinary. The prosecution began with the facts. Juan Martinez stood before the jury. Sharp. Unflinching. Focused. He didn't waste time with introductions. He walked them through the crime scene. Photo by photo. Wound by wound. He showed the shower. The blood trail. The image of Travis slumped against the back wall. He told the jury about the gas cans. The upside-down license plate. The rental car. The camera tossed in the washer. The missing hours on her cell phone. He called it what it was, planned. He told them Jodi drove across 3 states, armed, disguised, and determined. He reminded them of the bullet hole in Travis's skull. The stab wounds across his chest. The slash from ear to ear. He paused. Then he looked them in the eye. This was no accident. This was no defense. This was execution. Then came the photos. Displayed on a screen so large, no one in the room could look away. The last moments of Travis alive, shower photos, time-stamped. Then images after the attack. Each frame showing the shift from trust to destruction. And then, the voice recordings. Private voicemails. Texts. Emails. Jodi's own words, read aloud. Pleading. Angry. Forgiving. Raging. Sometimes within the same message. It wasn't just about murder. This case was now about control. About pride. About punishment. Then came the defense. Led by Kirk Nurmi and Jennifer Wilmot. They opened differently. They painted Jodi as a survivor. They said she had been abused. Manipulated. Used. That she had no intention to kill. They said she had been pushed too far, emotionally, sexually, psychologically. They told the jury she was fighting for her life. Not just that day, but every day she was with him. They claimed Travis was 2 different people. Publicly spiritual. Privately demanding. They played the sex tape. Audio Jodi had recorded secretly during one of their calls. It filled the courtroom. Whispers. Moans. Breathing. Laughter. The jurors listened in silence. Some shifted in their seats. Others looked down. And when the recording ended, the room remained still. Then came the journals. His. Hers. Text messages projected overhead. Words pulled from both. Some romantic. Others cruel. Arguments that stretched for pages. One message from Travis called her evil. Another accused her of being the worst thing that ever happened to him. The defense said this was proof. They said he pushed her until she snapped. And then, she took the stand. 18 days. No defendant in Arizona's history had ever testified for that long in a murder trial. She sat confidently. Composed. Unshaken. She told her story. From childhood to the killing. She said Travis was controlling. That he used her. That he made her feel worthless. She described their sexual encounters. Claimed they went against his faith, and that he blamed her for it. She said he made promises he didn't keep. That he laughed at her pain. And then, she walked them through the day of his death. At first, she stuck to the intruder story. Then she admitted it was a lie. Then she said she killed him, but only to protect herself. She said he lunged at her. That she ran for the closet. Grabbed a gun. That it went off. That she blacked out. When she opened her eyes, she was holding a bloody knife. She said she couldn't remember how many times she stabbed him. She just knew it was done. The jury watched. Every word. Every shift. Every glance. And they took notes. Because the inconsistencies were stacking fast. She remembered details about small things, but forgot the sequence of the murder. She cried on cue, but had no tears when talking about Travis's final moments. She blamed him, and then said she missed him. She said she was afraid, but sent flirtatious messages to another man the same night. She said she was ashamed, but gave a national interview the same week she was arrested. The contradictions didn't go unnoticed. Juan Martinez returned for cross-examination. And that's when everything changed. He pressed. He didn't let up. He asked about the gas cans. She denied lying. He pulled out the Walmart receipt. She stumbled. He asked about the gun. She said it belonged to Travis. He reminded her the caliber matched a weapon stolen from her grandparents just days earlier. He asked how someone who was terrified of Travis would willingly drive hours just to see him. She had no answer. She was caught in a web she had spun herself. And now, it was closing in. The media watched it all. Live streams. Headlines. Daily segments dissecting her every blink. She became a national obsession. TV networks broke down her outfits, her body language, her tone. One day, she wore glasses and a modest blouse. The next, a different hairstyle and soft colors. Critics said she was performing. Supporters called her misunderstood. But the jury had the only vote that mattered. And after 4 months, they reached a verdict. May 8, 2013. Courtroom packed. Nation watching. The jury filed in. The foreman stood. Guilty. First-degree murder. No one moved. No one cheered. Even Jodi sat still. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She blinked. Then whispered something to her attorney. Later that day, reporters asked her how she felt. She said she would rather be put to death than spend her life in prison. But when the penalty phase began, she changed her mind. Now, she wanted mercy. May 8, 2013. Maricopa County Superior Court. The jury filed into the room, single file. 12 people who had sat through 4 months of testimony, evidence, confrontation, and contradiction. They did not make eye contact with the defendant. They did not speak. They had one task left: speak a single word. The judge read the charge: first-degree murder. The foreperson stood. Guilty. Jodi Arias, expressionless. No tears. No reaction. As if the word didn't register. But inside the courtroom, the air dropped. Travis Alexander's family sat motionless, their hands gripping each other. They had waited 5 years for that moment. She sat still, as if waiting for her turn to speak again. And when the reporters caught her alone that evening, she had plenty to say. In a post-verdict interview, granted less than an hour after her conviction, Jodi said the death penalty would be the ultimate freedom. She said life in prison wasn't justice. She said she would rather die. But when given the chance to prove it, she changed course. The sentencing phase began. Now, the jury had to decide, execution or life. Travis's family was allowed to speak. His siblings described the pain, the trauma, the never-ending questions. They described the smell of the crime scene, the silence in their brother's room, the memories that now came with bloodstains and crime tape. Jodi returned to the witness stand one last time. This time, she begged. She told the jury she wanted to live. She offered to donate her hair to cancer patients. She showed photos of art she had drawn in jail. She said she could be useful behind bars. She said killing her would hurt her family. She said she had changed. The jury listened. But they didn't agree. Not all of them. The result, deadlock. 8 voted for death. 4 said no. The judge declared a mistrial on sentencing. It wasn't over. Another penalty phase began. New jurors. Same evidence. This time, it ended differently. 11 voted for execution. 1 said no. Another deadlock. 2 juries. 2 failures to reach a unanimous decision. Under Arizona law, that left only one option. Life in prison. April 13, 2015. Jodi Arias was sentenced to spend the rest of her life behind bars. No possibility of parole. No more trials. No more choices. Just concrete, steel, and silence. She stood before the court and gave her final statement. She said she remembered the moment she killed Travis. She said she regretted it. She said it wasn't planned. She said she never stopped loving him. Travis's sisters didn't look at her. His brother wiped his eyes. The court adjourned. She was led away. And just like that, the trial of the century ended with a locked door. But it didn't end there. She kept talking. From prison, Jodi gave interviews. More than once. She said she was innocent. Then said she was defending herself. She said she was abused. Then said she didn't deserve to be punished. She said the media got it wrong. Then smiled for the cameras. She sold her artwork. Signed autographs. Wrote letters to strangers. And even from her cell, she maintained control over the story, over the narrative, over the memory. But what she couldn't change was the ending. Travis Alexander was still gone. A man who wanted a future. A family. A life with purpose. A man who let someone in and never got the chance to let her go. The photos told the story. The blood confirmed it. The jury saw through the performance. And even with 2 deadlocked votes, the truth had weight. And in the end, that was enough to lock the door, for good. When the courtroom emptied, the story didn't stop. The verdict had been delivered. The sentence had been read. But what came next wasn't quiet. It echoed. In the minds of those who loved Travis Alexander, silence was no relief. The trial had lasted months. The pain, years. But the grief stayed. Travis's siblings returned home. Without cameras. Without microphones. Without their brother. They had sat through testimony that described his final moments in clinical detail. They had seen photos no one should ever have to look at. They had listened to his name used as both weapon and defense. And when the world moved on, they didn't. His brother, Tanisha, said no sentence could bring peace. That there were nights she woke up seeing the shower. That hearing his name now came with pictures she could never forget. His sister, Samantha, said she missed the sound of his laugh. Not the courtroom version. The real one. The one from family gatherings and birthday messages. They all said the same thing, they would never get him back. Not the way they remembered. Meanwhile, behind walls and wires, Jodi Arias adjusted. She entered Perryville prison with no parole. No appeals pending. No pathway out. But she found a different way to be seen. She began drawing pencil portraits of celebrities, inmates, people she had never met. She sold them through third parties. Some were auctioned. Others mailed to supporters. She granted interviews from inside her cell. More than once. She said the media had misrepresented her. She said the jury got it wrong. She said she was the victim. She didn't say Travis's name much. Instead, she spoke about books she was reading. Her favorite meals in prison. The classes she wanted to teach. She filed lawsuits. One against her attorney, for defamation. Another against the prison, for limiting her access to media. She told one interviewer she still hoped for freedom one day. She smiled when she said it. The public didn't forget either. The trial had been broadcast live, gavel to gavel. It had become a daily ritual for millions. People tuned in from break rooms, bedrooms, waiting rooms, classrooms. They watched not just for answers, but for spectacle. The tears. The voice recordings. The sex tape. The secret journal entries. Every part of it consumed. Replayed. Speculated on. Turned into content. Books followed. Podcasts. Television specials. Streaming documentaries. Scripted dramatizations. Each one finding a new angle. A new edit. A new narrator. But the story remained the same. A man was murdered in cold blood. A woman blamed everyone but herself. And the audience kept watching. But under all of it, the questions never fully stopped. What does this case really say? About relationships that blur boundaries. About people who wear masks so well, you forget they're pretending. About words that sound like love, but are built on control. About apologies that come only when the outcome is sealed. About how far someone will go, not for affection, but to avoid being discarded. Jodi said she killed Travis because she had to. But the evidence told a different version. She bought gas cans to avoid being seen. She dyed her hair. She brought a weapon. She posed him for photos. She stayed long enough to clean the crime scene. Then she drove away, kissed another man, and went to sleep. There was no panic. No regret. Only strategy. And when asked why she changed her story so many times, she smiled again. Because she believed each version when it served her. And that, more than the knife, the gun, or the camera, is what still unsettles people. Not just what she did. But how calmly she justified it. How easily she adjusted to whatever reality she needed. How she looked at a jury, claimed victimhood, and went back to sketching flowers. People still debate who she really was. Manipulated, or manipulator. Victim, or predator. But the facts are already fixed. Travis Alexander is gone. His memory shaped by court documents, digital images, and a trial that never truly ended. Because the questions he left behind still echo. Not through his voice, but through hers. What makes a person take a life, and then go out for lunch? That question followed this case long after the trial ended. Not because the evidence was confusing, but because the emotions weren't. They were missing. From the moment Travis Alexander was found, psychologists, profilers, and legal analysts tried to understand what drove Jodi Arias to kill, not in the heat of passion, but step by step, over 1,000 miles, with gas cans, weapons, and a camera. What did she believe she was protecting? What was she trying to destroy? And how could someone go from posing a man for pictures, to stabbing him dozens of times? That's what the experts were called to examine. And what they found, was not madness. It was order. Forensic psychologist Dr. Janine DeMarte testified during the trial. She spent hours with Jodi, reviewing interviews, reading journals, watching recordings. Her conclusion: borderline personality traits. Not a mental illness. Not psychosis. Traits. Emotional instability. Fear of abandonment. Manipulation used as survival. A need for control disguised as affection. But most important, an inability to accept rejection. Not just emotionally, but psychologically. Jodi didn't just lose Travis. She lost the image she had built of herself through him. And that loss, to someone wired like her, wasn't just painful. It was unacceptable. Other experts went further. Some saw traits of narcissism. The kind that doesn't always look like confidence, but shows up in more subtle ways. Believing the rules don't apply. Rewriting history to fit the narrative. Switching versions of the truth, depending on who's listening. One psychologist said Jodi's sense of self was shaped by the reflections of others. She didn't just want love, she needed to be chosen. And when she wasn't, that loss became identity collapse. She had moved her life for him. Changed her religion. Rebuilt her image. When he told her it wasn't enough, she didn't withdraw. She intensified. She studied him. Learned his patterns. Used the very things he'd once complimented, her voice, her appearance, her attention to detail, as tools. Not to keep him. To erase him. The journals showed more. Her handwriting, even. Her tone, affectionate. But the content, possessive. She wrote pages about what she thought he was doing when he wasn't replying. She speculated about who he was texting. She created entire dialogues she believed he was having, then responded as if they had happened. When he stopped calling, she wrote to him anyway. When he asked for space, she drove to his house. Even when she claimed the relationship had ended, her messages kept arriving. But she told others they were done. That contradiction became the clearest clue. Her perception didn't match the facts. And once that gap was wide enough, she filled it with her own solution. Why do some people kill after rejection? It's not common. Most people grieve. The trial ended. The cameras pulled back. The courtroom emptied. And the woman at the center of it all disappeared behind a locked door. Jodi Arias was transferred to Perryville Prison, west of Phoenix, Arizona. No press. No escorts. Just an intake number, a jumpsuit, and a cell. She wasn't placed in isolation. She was housed with other women convicted of violent crimes. At first, she kept talking. She gave interviews. Some from behind glass. Others through letters. She said she was misrepresented. She said her story had been twisted. She said she never meant to kill. But she never asked for forgiveness. She never looked into the camera and said, "I did it, and I'm sorry." She remained consistent in only one thing, control. Even in prison, she wanted the last word. She taught art classes. She wrote letters to supporters. She drew portraits, some of herself, others of celebrities, a few of animals, and sold them through people on the outside. She said she found peace. But Travis Alexander's family wasn't looking for closure in her interviews. They were still trying to live. Without him. His siblings spoke occasionally. To reporters. To the public. To the courtroom during sentencing. But mostly, to each other. They kept his memory alive through the smallest things. Recipes. Photos. Vacations he never got to take. They said grief was no longer a wave. It was something permanent. Not loud. Not sharp. Just there. Always. In the background of holidays. In the space at family dinners. In the way they watched strangers now, wondering how many others walk among us capable of doing what she did. They didn't forgive her. But they stopped waiting for her to ask. Because forgiveness was never the point. Years passed. But the public didn't forget. The trial had been televised. Clips still circulated. Her words. His photos. The sound of her voice during cross-examination. The image of him in the shower, moments before the attack. Documentaries followed. Books. Social media pages still share his quotes. His speeches. His childhood photos. People who never met him speak about him with a kind of reverence, not because he was perfect, but because his story became a warning. Not about strangers. About trust. About second chances given to the wrong person. About charm used like a weapon. There are online communities dedicated to the case. Some still argue over the verdict. A few support her. Most don't. But either way, her name still trends. Years later. Because people aren't just haunted by what she did. They're haunted by how ordinary she looked doing it. Travis Alexander is buried in California. Not far from where he grew up. His headstone is simple. It doesn't mention what happened. Only his name. His birth. His death. And the word, son. But if you listen to the people who knew him best, they'll tell you he wanted more than titles. He wanted a future. He wanted a wife. He wanted a story that ended in peace, not crime scene tape. But instead, he became a case file. He became trial footage. He became a cautionary tale. And somewhere in Arizona, the person who took all of that away still breathes, still speaks, still draws, but no longer walks free. It wasn't the blood. It wasn't the gun. It wasn't the knife. It was the camera. That memory card, pulled from a washer full of clothes, captured everything. A timeline. A face. A blink. A breath. Travis Alexander, looking into the lens, unaware of what would follow. The final photo showed him standing in the shower. Seconds later, there would be no more images. What came after that frame wasn't recorded. Only the results were left behind. That camera, meant to be destroyed, became the witness. And in the end, it told the truth better than she ever would. There are murders that shock. There are murders that confuse. And then there are murders that feel like they should have never happened. This wasn't random. This wasn't a stranger in the night. This was someone invited inside. Someone given access to the most vulnerable moments. Someone once trusted. And that's what made this case different. Not just the violence. But how close she had been to him. How quietly she turned. How long she waited before acting. And how carefully she moved once it was done. There's no clear line between obsession and attachment until it's crossed. Most people don't recognize it when they're in it. It looks like affection. It sounds like loyalty. But under the surface, it's something else entirely. It's not love. It's ownership. And once rejection enters that equation, logic disappears. She said she loved him. But she planned his end. She said she cared. But she recorded a man she would later leave bleeding on a bathroom floor. She didn't leave immediately. She cleaned. She deleted files. She loaded a washing machine. Then got in her car and drove. Not to confess. But to meet someone else. Throughout the trial, she cried. She defended herself. She offered explanations. She changed stories. But she never said what mattered. She never said why. Why someone would take so much time preparing for something they claimed was unplanned. Why someone would document a trip designed to be forgotten. Why someone would speak so gently about something so violent. The answer may never be clear. But the evidence was. And the silence after his death said more than her voice ever did. This case was never just about one man and one woman. It became a study. In how people present themselves. In how charm can be used as a tool. In how anger wears different faces. In how obsession hides inside routine. And in how far some people will go to preserve the illusion of control. The question was asked 1,000 times, was it love, or was it something else? Love doesn't leave a body in the shower. Love doesn't lie 3 times before reaching the truth. Love doesn't drive across state lines with weapons, gas cans, and a dead phone. This wasn't heartbreak. This was decision. And so now, we are left with this. A memory card. A timeline. A man who never saw it coming. And a woman who never believed she'd be caught. This story continues online. In books. In documentaries. In conversations between strangers who still debate motive, guilt, and punishment. But for the people who lived through it, there are no more questions. Only memories. And grief. And locked doors. You've just watched one of the most haunting cases ever captured on record, in photos, in voice, and in silence. If this story left you with questions, share them in the comments. If it stayed with you, let us know where you're watching from. And if you want more true crime stories, real, raw, and unfiltered, subscribe, turn on notifications, and follow Bruised Voice. Because there's always another story. Another photo. Another choice that can't be taken back. But before we close, ask yourself, if you looked her in the eyes that day, would you have seen it? Would anyone?